Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and today happens to be episode 308. Um, I have not done one of these in a while. I've been uh, on the go. There's been a lot going on. We've been traveling. We flew to Cleveland for a wedding, first time ever in Cleveland. I live in Florence, South Carolina, so for us to get to Cleveland, it's either a 10.5 hour drive or we go to Myrtle Beach and get on a plane. And Myrtle Beach for us is about an hour and a half. And then the plane ride is about an hour and a half. Now, not to say you can be there in 3 hours because you got to be there so many hours ahead of time to get checked in through security and to go through TSA and to do your baggage and all that fun stuff. This is the first time that we've ever used Spirit Air, and it was not a terrible experience. I've heard a lot of people, say horror stories about, flying with Spirit Air, but actually it was pretty okay. The only thing that I could say that I didn't care for was when we got there, you have a kiosk that you punch in your flight itinerary and it prints off your luggage tag, and it also gives you your boarding pass. And that's fine. That's cool. Um, I wasn't quite sure how to put the luggage tag on, which I was like, that's fine. There's this whole line for getting your bag to hand to somebody. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to give my bag to somebody. So at some point here, they're going to have to weigh it. Okay, that makes sense. And, that way you're not overweighting your bag. You're not trying to, haul people in it or something crazy. Uh, so we get through the line, and the line was the worst part. We got in line, and there may have been uh, maybe 20 people in line, but it took us almost 2 hours to get from where we were in line to the lady where we're supposed to just hand her bag. We've done all the other work. Like there's nothing else to really do. I don't know why we had to wait 2 more hours to get through that line. Now, here's the crazy part is we were told when we called up there, you only need to be here an hour and a half ahead of your flight and you've got plenty of time. This is not a very busy airport. And it's not. They only have like seven concourses, seven gates. Concourse is the wrong word, seven gates. So it's a small airport, but it is big enough that they can fly all over the place. And you would think that they would have more than one or two agents up there to do anything. But even with multiple people, only one person was doing anything. Like maybe we were there during lunch, maybe they had people that were cycling through when they were supposed to be on duty or off duty. But the crazy part was like even when there was five people back there, only two of them were doing anything. Like the other ones were just standing around. And I'm like, do you not see the line of people that literally are zigzagging back and forth like they're at Disney? And then out the door, another 200 feet out the door, waiting in line for this one place. Now, they have more than just Spirit Air going out of there. I did notice some signs above some ticket agents that said Delta and Allegiant, and even Southwest is trying their hand at flying out of Myrtle Beach, which is cool. Competition keeps everybody honest with their prices and competitive and that kind of stuff, which is good for consumers. But the line should have been faster. I was really disappointed in how they were handling the flow of everything. I don't know why it would take over 30 minutes to talk to one person and then over 30 minutes to talk to the next person. And I'm like, it should be put your bag on the thing. All right, let me see. Yep, that's you. All right, have a nice flight. And if you're over, you go, hey, you're a little bit over your weight. You know, you got to pay an extra fee. Okay. How long does that take? I mean, really, maybe at the most 5 minutes. Like if you have to fumble for your wallet and you're like, I don't know, hey, does this card work? Something like that. Or if you can't find your ID, maybe that's the case. That wasn't the case. We could see them. We were all looking at them. We were boring our eyeballs through the backs of their skulls, looking at them, going, "What are you doing?" And they were just standing there, just the lady at the gate, just standing there. All the people behind her, just standing there. Like maybe their job is to just stand there. Maybe that's the test. Let's see how pissed off everybody in line can be if we just stand here and do nothing. Because if that's a test, they totally passed because I was really angry by the time I got up there. Now, Good thing was the flight that we were supposed to catch to go to Cleveland was coming from Chicago, and they were running late, probably because of weather. I mean, Chicago's famous for having a lot of fog up in that area and having flight delays because of it. So we were okay as far as that goes. But I mean, at one point, literally, one of the five people standing there with their hands in their pocket goes, "Is anybody going to Cleveland?" And like over half the line was like, "Yeah, like everybody right here." Oh well, we'll just come on up here. I'm like, I literally wanted to just reach across and strangle him. Efficiency, Spirit Air, efficiency. That's all I'm saying. Myrtle Beach needs some attention on efficiency. Um, we had a nice flight. Everybody was nice. They didn't offer drinks except if you were willing to pay for it, which I understand. They're a budget airline. Okay, cool. $3 for a Coke. I heard somebody say that's a lot high, but I mean, you're paying for the convenience of having a Coke on a plane. So is $3 a bit much? Yeah, but is it on a plane? Probably not. It's all about perspective, right? So I understand that. That's fine. We had a friend of ours, him and his wife both. This was their first time flying, Kelvin and Karen, and they had a good time. They actually liked it. They were like, this is good." I mean, the flight was smooth. Hour and a half. We touched down in Cleveland. Great, super. Coming off, we got down to baggage, and by the time we got in the the bags were waiting on us. I was like, great. That is super efficient. Cleveland's airport is really efficient. Um, we got there, we're able to catch our ride. We had friends that were already there. We went to the wedding. It was a beautiful wedding. Meg and Ian were in the wedding. Ian has been on the podcast. If you look back in the list of podcasts, I wish I actually knew the number before I started this. Ian and Mike and Danny were on the podcast. Ian is a police officer up in the Cleveland area and was moving the way up, I think, through the lines of being either lieutenant or detective. I don't exactly remember right now. But anyway, um, at the time, COVID was just starting off, and I was asking Ian and Mike both about what it was like, trying to do your job with the risk of COVID going on and the steps they were having to take and how difficult that must be. And it was a great podcast. And um, Meg is a television reporter up there in Cleveland, and they have a great little meet cute story where he was supposed to go to court for something and she was doing a news report outside of the courthouse and a bird pooped on his shoulder and he was like, I can't go in here like this. So he like, she wasn't busy and he's like, excuse me, ma'am, do you have like a tissue or something I can? She's like, oh yeah, yeah. And I guess he, wiped it off and was kind of making small talk with her. And at some point he just took a leap of faith and said, hey, I know this sounds weird, but would you like to go out sometime? And it turned into a wedding. It turned into their future together. So congratulations to Ian and Meg. Beautiful wedding. They had already planned this wedding last year, and when COVID hit, they really didn't know what to do. I think they went ahead and went to the courthouse and got married at the courthouse, but they'd already paid for the event. They'd already paid for everything. They had the dresses ready. Everybody was ready. But then COVID hit and they said no gatherings, blah, blah, blah. So they put it off. So this was not necessarily a wedding as much as it was just a ceremony to have friends and celebrate. And it was great. Everybody had a good time. I got to meet lots of people, lots of friends, and lots of family. At dinner, I actually sat down with the guy who officiated the wedding. He is a sports radio guy up in the Cleveland area and really interesting to talk to. So, I mean, I had a blast. We stayed at an Airbnb or VRBO. I'm not sure exactly which. A friend of ours coordinated it, but it was on the Great Lakes of, I think it was Lake Erie. It's an old factory that they've converted into being like apartment buildings and very high ceilings in the apartments. Very nice, very cozy. Um, we could see the Cleveland Brown Stadium from our room. We were, I think, on the fourth floor, and our just so happens that our windows faced the water, and over the water you could see the Cleveland Brown Stadium. It's pretty cool. My wife and I both commented on the fact that we didn't know where the people were. Like maybe COVID has everybody indoors a little more right now. Maybe people are doing more social distancing, or I don't know. We went out into public to eat dinner, And I think Saturday night, Dolores and I went to go get some pizza for everybody downtown Cleveland. And we maybe saw 10 cars total the entire time. And we kept commenting on, where is the traffic? Where are the people at? Now, maybe it was because it was Memorial Day weekend and everybody might have been out of town. I don't know. All I know is I was extremely pleased with our trip to Cleveland. We had some friends that rented a SUV. We got a Ford Expedition, brand new Ford Expedition. It's beautiful. And we all pitched in to kind of, ease the cost of that, which also made our trip a lot nicer because we didn't have to have like separate Ubers and like split money on Ubers and try to coordinate all of that. It was just, hey, let's just rent a car. We can return it at the airport when we're all headed home. We're headed home the same day. And it worked out great. The expedition was super. We had room for 6 adults and our luggage with no problem. The rental car place was easy to get in and out of. The um, the whole experience in Cleveland was nice. We had great dinner at a lot of places. The first day we were there, we went by a place called the Char Bar. Fantastic food. Holy cow. They specialize in whiskeys and their menu was online. Like it had one of those little pieces of paper on your table with a Q code, and you're just supposed to put your camera over it and hit the little button on your screen and it takes you to their Q code of their menus. They had one whole menu that was nothing but whiskeys that they had, and it was like page after page after page of whiskeys. I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. There was also, a lot of like specialty things that they make because of working with char type stuff, charcoal and, cooking things over charcoal and also wood. Um, I ordered the char burger. I told everybody, I said, hey, if it's named after the place, it's got to be fantastic. And it was. It was a burger with like some short rib meat on top of it and some onion straws and some kind of aioli sauce. It was really dynamite, really dynamite. But we also like ordered some appetizers to kind of sample off of some lobster roll appetizer, some crab cakes, some all kinds of stuff. It was really good, really fantastic. So if you're up in that area, I highly recommend looking for the Char Bar. That's Char Bar. Fantastic. Um, we also, on the last day, went to a little place that specializes in pizza. It's called Saucy. I think it's called Saucy Barbecue or Saucy Bar and Grill, something like that. SAUCEY. First thing on the menu, saucy balls was like meatballs that were like specialty seasoned and stuff like that. We all wanted it and they were completely out. I was like, oh, come on. But it was a really cool looking place on the inside. It looked like an old factory. They actually made their own beer in house. I counted, I think, 16 beers that they made in house. You can see the distillery behind the walls. They have it all kind of open air factory look. There's these giant I beams that they've painted yellow that they hang certain things from. That's different colors for different things, and the yellow ones held the mounts for the TVs that hung from the ceiling, and very open air kind of environment. There was an outdoor seating thing that kind of paraded down into the street. Beautiful place, great place. Um, we were not disappointed anywhere we went for any meal. One day we went by the coast, and there's a place called Harp. It's a Irish kind of pub kind of place. Delicious food. I think we several of us got the chicken and waffles there just because it sounded fantastic, and it was. Uh, yeah, but it's that thing of when you go out of town, you don't want to eat at the chain restaurant. You don't want to eat at the place that you can eat at in your own town. You're like, hey, let's try something different. Like I love the different. I love the adventure of you know nowadays you have the internet to help you with reviews to tell you whether or not they're any good, and you just look up reviews and they're going, oh, you got to try this. Oh, they're known for this. Oh, I'm like, yes, please, thank you. I'm a big fan. So, anyway, flying out of Cleveland, we had a really good experience at the airport. When we got to that ticket counter, we only stood in line maybe 20 minutes. So, Myrtle Beach, take a note from Cleveland's airport and have staff that know what they're doing and can get you through the line efficiently. That's all it is, efficiency. So, um, good flight, got back to Myrtle Beach, and then we had to wait for almost an hour for our baggage to get off the plane. Again, Myrtle Beach. Efficiency. You only have like these many gates. I mean, you would think that this would efficiency. That's all I'm saying. Just be a little more efficient. which I know right now a lot of people are understaffed, and I can only imagine that probably Myrtle Beach is understaffed as well. I mean, that's kind of my go-to thought is they're probably needing people as well. They just don't have enough people. So if that's the case, I get it. We're understaffed too. Everybody's understaffed. So anyway, moving on. Let's talk about something I heard because this is the Stuff I Heard podcast. I listened to Joe Rogan interview Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you don't know, is an astrophysicist and probably one of the smartest people I've ever listened to speak because he loves to educate and he loves to do it in a way that makes you smile. He talks about that a lot on this. He talks about the fact that when you smile, you learn better because you're enjoying your experience and it sparks your imagination. He talks about, in this episode as well as others, how Alice Cooper's song "School's Out for the Summer, School's Out Forever," and it's a big celebration of I don't have to learn anymore. And he goes, for me, that wasn't the case. For me, I wanted to learn more. The second I got out of school, I was like, wait, but I'm not done. And I think that the older I get, the more I also emulate that feeling. When I was younger, I thought this is a thing I have to do, and I don't want to do it because there's other things that I think I could do better. There's better uses of my time. There's better resources available to me if I was just allowed not to have to go here. Now, if I'm honest, I look back and I say being in school was probably very beneficial for me. It taught me a lot of social skills. I met some of my best friends that I'm still friends with today. Um, I made connections with people that I still have today. And I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot about life and the world. And there were some teachers that really sparked my imagination to think bigger than me, bigger than my town, bigger than just Joshua. One of those teachers, Ms. Hobbs, taught a physics class that I accidentally signed up for when I was a senior in high school. I didn't mean to take it. I thought I was signing up for something else. I actually wanted early dismissal so I could leave early. And I guess I clicked the wrong box or something. And I showed up to her class. And the first day of class, she goes, "Hey, have you ever wondered how a metal boat floats in the water that weighs this many tons?" And I was like, yeah, it is kind of interesting. And she's like, let's do an experiment. And so she had a little aquarium set up and she's like, well, the ocean's made of salt water. And she puts salt in it and she shakes it up, with a spoon. And she has this metal type, you know, bottom of a boat type thing that's made. And she talks about displacement and she says, this weighs this many pounds. And she's like, if I put it in regular water, it's probably going to sink. But in the salt water, the salt is more buoyant and the displacement of this boat lets it float. And she had like a smaller boat that sunk and then a bigger, wider boat. And because of the base of it and because of the salt water, it floated. And I was like, cool. And I thought, all right, maybe I'll show up tomorrow. I mean, I could still drop the class, but and I just kept showing up to the class and she kept doing these experiments that inspired me and made me think, I do want to know how some things work. And so that never really left, even though I joined the Marine Corps and, I tried my hand at college and didn't really care for it. I actually went to college to go into engineering because of her class, because of Miss Hobbs. So, Miss Hobbs, if you're ever out there and listening to this by chance, I know before you were Miss Hobbs, you were Miss Mishaw. I don't know if you're still Miss Hobbs, but your class inspired me to think, and your class inspired me to want to learn, even after I got old and I thought I wouldn't ever want to learn anything else. I did. And I always think about that class and I always think about those experiments and I always think about the things that we did in that class. And yeah, so thank you. I got off on a tangent there. Anyway, Neil deGrasse Tyson. So he talks about all this and he talks about how, you should have a thirst for knowledge. You should have a curiosity. And it is fun when you have that curiosity and you learn new things. He talks about a lot in this podcast. This is episode 1658. Joe's already on 1658. God, I got to step up my game, man. Jeez. Of course, he's been at it a lot longer than I have. And he has smart people on. And I mean, I have some smart people on, but mostly it's just me. But take that for what it is, right? But yeah, so in this, Neil talks about all sorts of things. They talk about commonplace things that may fascinate you. He talks about movies where maybe there's some inaccuracies of the physics of things. And he talks about He talks about deep stuff like, anti-gravity and antimatter, and studying quarks and pixels of things, and how the universe is expanding and how we can measure it, and how they've studied different planets because of their cycles and the way they pull in different ways, and that because of that pull of some planets and some orbital bodies, we've been able to find out that the Kuiper belt is actually pretty close to us. And there's all this stuff that he's talking about, and every step of it, my brain goes, I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Sort of one of those Disney moments. So listen, I highly recommend it. I know it's 3 hours, but it goes by so quickly because he's entertaining. He's very fun to listen to. And Joe asked some really great questions. I listened to this on the plane. I listened to it when we got back. I listened to it in the car. I listened to it as much as I could until I finished it. It took me probably a week to finish it, which is probably why I waited to do the podcast till afterwards. But really fascinating. It's one of the most enjoyable things I've listened to in quite a while. So I recommend it. Also, we've had 2 episodes of The Bad Batch come out. Friday before I got on the plane was episode 5, and that episode was titled Rampage. Okay. I'm not exactly sure why they chose these titles, but Rampage to me has to do with their subject matter of what they were doing. So if you've not watched this, skip past it. But I'm going to talk about the episode because I'm geeking out. So in the episode, they're on the run. They're being pursued, I guess, because of who they are, and also because of Omega. They have Omega with them, and I've talked with Treadaway on the last podcast about how Wrecker was complaining about his head hurting for a while. And I thought, oh, like something in his brain. He's got that chip in his brain that's going to suddenly convert him over like Crosshair did, like all the other stormtroopers did during Order 66. He's going to suddenly turn on his buddies. And he didn't talk, like he stopped talking about it for one episode. Well, then he started back with episode 5 and with episode 6 more and more. And you see this in episode 6. But in episode 5, he's fighting with this thing that they're supposed to save. They're on the run and they meet up with this barkeep lady named Sid. And I love Sid's voice. Sid sounds like an older woman who's real sassy, and she used to help out Jedis once in a while. And since the Empire's fallen, um, or since the Empire has taken over, I should say, this is the different timeline. Since the Empire's taken over, and the Jedi are now the enemy. Now she's working sort of as a bounty hunter slash contract situation person. She's making money by making things happen. When people want something, they come to her, and she makes it happen for a profit. She's like I don't know, like a logistics officer maybe. So these things happen, and she just happens to be the person for the job. And they meet up with her, and she gives them a job. She says, "Listen, there's this there's this I want you to go save this person." But she didn't say person. She says, I want you to go save Munchi. Munchi's being held captive by these people. Muchi. Am I pronouncing it right? Muchi. Yeah, there is no N. Muchi. I want you to go save Muchi. Muchi's being held captive. It really means a lot to my client if you can retrieve Muchi. And, if you do, I'll pay you handsomely. And you guys need money and you need protection. And I can protect you from the people who are looking for you. And they want information about who the bounty hunter is that was trying to come after Omega. So they have images of this bounty hunter, and they show her, and she says, I'll look into it while you guys are looking for Muchi. So they go off and they're trying to retrieve Muchi, and they come upon an encampment of slavers, and they think that Muchi is this little kid inside of a thing because they heard Muchi was a kid. That's all they heard. Muchi's a kid, and you need to retrieve Muchi. When they get there, Omega figures out that Muchi is not the kid. Muchi is a rancor, which is a giant monster looking thing. If you guys ever watched Return of the Jedi, whenever they're trying to get Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt, um, Luke Skywalker's dropped into a pit with this giant monster that like eats an orc, just bites his body in half and comes after Luke, and Luke ends up killing it. That is a rancor. This is not the same rancor. That rancor, because thank you, Internet. The Internet had a credit line from the movie and said that rancor's name was Patissa, Pateesa. Apparently, it was given by Bib Fortuna to Jabba the Hutt as a birthday present. And, he's a crime lord, and it's just one of the fun things he likes to do is throw people that he don't like into this pit and watch the Rancor eat it. Moochie apparently is a Rancor. And they save Moochie, but not by any ordinary means. Omega sets it free, and it basically wreaks havoc on the people who held it captive. And at a certain point, all of those guys are pretty much taken care of, and the Bad Batch have to figure out how to get Moochie under control because they can't, like, all right, come with us. I mean, it doesn't really talk normal. But they do figure out from some of the other slave people that Moochie, being a Rancor, understands a hierarchy of dominance. So Wrecker, being the biggest of the Bad Batch, fights Moochie and gets to a point where they both pass out, but Wrecker is the last one alive, awake, or whatever you say, conscious. So Moochie listens to Wrecker now. And Moochie also likes Omega because Omega set him free. And they bring Moochie back to Sid, and who's there but Bib Fortuna, which is Jabba the Hutt's right-hand man. And they turn Moochie over, and I'm like, wait a second. Because my first thought was, that's the Rancor from the Return of the Jedi. And like I instantly, the internet was on top of it, man. Wikipedia, Wookie, Wikipedia. If you check that out for anything having to do with Star Wars, it's an open source Wikipedia source that have sort of taken over Star Wars lore, and all of the information is on there. You could just read and click on all the links and learn so much just by going through it. Thank you guys for doing that. I love the fact that you guys are doing that. It was so helpful in just doing the research for this. So anyway, that moving into episode 6, it's called Dismantled. And in it, it starts off with them hanging out with Sid, and Sid says, listen, I got a job for you to do. And they're like, we're not sure we want to take this job. And she says, you don't have a choice. Like, I'm protecting you from Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand is the bounty hunter that was coming after them, which Greg and Treadaway and I talked about that. I'm protecting you from being found, and I need your help. I need you to go after this tactical droid. If you watched the Clone Wars, the tactical droid was a sort of an AI droid that usually commanded a droid army. It would learn things about their enemy and use what it learned against them. Like immediately it would learn on the fly. And since the Empire has taken over and the whole Palpatine scheme had come out, they decided, okay, we're going to dismantle these tactical droids and all the other droids as fast as we can because we don't need these things acting up and suddenly causing trouble. So they go to this factory to retrieve this tactical droid because it's worth a lot of money. It's worth a lot to a lot of people. If you can figure out how to manipulate this thing and get it to do your bidding, it can be very valuable. It can control droid armies just by saying, I need you to do this. It goes, okay, and it follows the orders. So they go to this factory. They find where the droids are being melted. Tech uses it, or either Tech or Echo. I'm not sure which one is the mechanical arm one. He puts his arm in the machine and he does the research and he says, okay, there's only one here. We got to find it. So they split up to go find it. Wrecker gets into a battle with something. He jumps over a thing and hits his head, and immediately he starts talking like Crosshair did in the first episode, where good soldiers follow orders. He keeps saying this over and over again, and it is that moment of going, oh no, like he's going to snap, and suddenly he's going to be after them because he's going to be just like all the other stormtroopers, and that little chip in his head is suddenly activated and telling him, you got to kill them, like they're the enemy. And I can see, like Treadaway and I talked about how this is going to be probably a plot line that's going to come up, and it seems like it's coming true, which is terrifying because he's the strongest of all of them, and I mean, just watching him battle a Rancor by himself was pretty impressive. But yeah, so they find the tactical droid. It's not in one piece, but all they really need is the head, and it's on a conveyor belt getting ready to be melted. And they all go into a rush to get it. And in the process, somebody runs by and grabs it before they get a chance. And they're like, wait, somebody grabbed it. And Omega sees it, and Omega's like, I'm on it. And they're like, just stay where you are. And they're trying to battle these other droids that have suddenly come onto the scene, these police droids, and they're trying to fight their way out of a scenario that they're stuck in. And Omega does her part. She really tries to go after this head. Through a lot of craziness, you find out that there's two people there, two ladies that are trying to steal his head also. And I can only assume watching it that they're there for the same reason that our guys are there for the money, because they realize that this thing is pretty valuable. And as the show goes on, you realize that that's not the case. Um, these two ladies are actually sisters. They're called the Martinez sisters, Trace and Rafa, and they're from the Clone Wars, the final season, when Ahsoka Tano is booted out of the Jedi Order or asked to leave the Jedi Order, and then they beg her to come back, and she's like, "No, I'm out." Like she bails. During that time, she goes into the underworld, and she becomes friends with Trace and Rafa. And she also sees how the Republic is really um, treating its people terribly, that they're starving their people in a lot of ways, basically to make them fall in line. Um, so Ahsoka Tano becomes friends with them, and you see that their hustle during the show, during the Clone Wars, is just to do whatever they can to make some money to try and get off world. And of course, the minute I hear their voices, even though they're wearing masks, I'm like, I know those voices. I know who they are. And then at a certain point in the show, they take their masks off and you see them. And you're like, okay, cool. I know who these girls are. But I still had to like research it to find out what their last name was. I knew who they were, but I just couldn't place it. Anyway, show goes on. They're fighting their way out. They're both arguing over who's supposed to get the head of this, tactical droid. And during the process, either Tech or Echo, whichever one of them, sticks this thing inside of it to control it, so they can control the other droids in the factory to fight to help them. And that works. They all help out. All the droids are now fighting each other. The good guys are getting ready to leave all together. All of them, the Martinez's and the Bad Batch, and the little thing that the guy stuck in its head, he pulls out, and they're all running, and somebody shoots the Imperial droid's head, and it blows up, and it's gone. So they're running away. They finally get to the ship where everything's in the clear, and they have a moment to talk to each other. And they say, "We really needed that head," and he says, "For the money." And she says, "No, we needed the information on it to fight the Empire." So apparently they've been talking about fighting the Empire. They've been sort of on the front lines of what is the Rebel Alliance, what we know as the Rebel Alliance. So there's this whole thing there where um, they're probably working for somebody, and you don't see that until the very end. Hunter gives them that stick thing that either Tech or Echo stuck in his brain. He says, he used this to download all of its information. So use this for your pursuit for good, which blows them away because they're like, wait, we thought clones were just one way of thinking. He's like, no, that's not the case. So they're enlightened and they're hopeful over the fact of, oh, like there's a future. There's other people helping us. Maybe we can defeat the Empire if we all work together. And so as they're flying away, they get on their holocron and they're saying, you know, we have some interesting information that you would love to hear. And you see like the shadow of a holocron of somebody, and you're not sure who it is. But I know from watching the show, and so does every other fan who's watched the show, that it's Ahsoka because they're friends with Ahsoka. And Ahsoka's probably looking for allies during this time. So there is a really good chance that we're going to see Ahsoka coming up in the next episodes. Hooray. I'm super excited. Anyway, I'm sure if you're not a Star Wars fan right now, you're like, this is boring. I can't believe he talks about Star Wars this much. Hey, get over it. It is what it is. Okay. I'm wearing a Millennium Falcon shirt that's probably 20 years old and still fits great. I got my Boba Fett thing behind me. I like Star Wars. Okay. Get over it. It's really good content. There's better content coming up. I mean, not better, but there's other content coming up that's really cool. Loki comes out on the 9th, and it looks amazing. It looks better than any movie I've ever watched. Just the stuff they have going on is mind blowing. Yeah. really looking forward to watching Loki on Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, man, you're gonna miss out on a lot of cool stuff because there's a lot coming. Um, on Netflix, the last season of Lucifer just hit. Um, I'm actually not in a hurry to watch it. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of done everything, and maybe that's why they're ending it now. But I will watch it, and I'll probably talk about it on here. But the Kaminsky Method, the last season came out. Alan Arkin passed away. The show was, two guys getting older and talking about their life as old men do, and it was funny. And you know, one of the stars of the show passed away, and so now I watched the first episode last night, and it's interesting. It's interesting. So, all right. That's it. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for everybody for listening. Thanks for watching on the YouTube. I am sorry that it took me so long to do another episode. I have just been busy, 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 busy. So, anyway, thank you again. And as always, please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. That's how we help keep the lights on and keep this thing running. And maybe I can buy better equipment if this all keeps going the way it's going. So, with that being said, I'm off and cue the cow.